Let's get a little.
Oh, wow. You are really... Oh, boy. This is a recipe for trouble, guys. This is a recipe for trouble.
That's all right. We're going to do a little... I normally drink... I like this bourbon. Woodford Reserve. Double oaked. It's one of my personal favorites.
Looking for sponsorships. Looking for sponsorships.
But tonight we're doing a little whiskey ginge with the Zevia. Because I had one neat already. And I'm going to tell you, it didn't agree with me. So I was like, I'll force another one down. But I'll mix it with some soda and it'll be okay. Woo. Don't need to stir it because it stirs itself inside of me.
So let's go ahead and kick it off. I am so far out of my comfort zone with this one.
I know.
So
I know. I was thinking a lot about you.
Thank you.
As I often do now as I watch movies, which has totally ruined most of my... That's why I think all new movies are garbage.
Just leaves a real bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, it tastes like mackerel.
I'm watching movies from the past that I used to love and be like, these movies fucking suck. Like, what happened? It's like, oh, Keith, just present.
Yeah. Well, I like to ruin things. So.
Yeah. So the film that we're discussing today is Dune, the 2021 version.
Yes.
Dune.
The
Emperor asks us to bring peace to Arrakis. House Atreides accepts.
Directed by Denis Villeneuve.
It's not Dennis?
I think it's Denis for those of us with glasses. Oh, God.
Do not say Denis, but rather Denis Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve. Denis.
A very talented director. Very, very talented director.
Yes.
Someone whose work I have enjoyed a great deal over the past half decade to decade. Excited, and he has reached that pantheon of current directors where if his name's attached to a project, I'm immediately excited. So I was very excited for this Dune movie because Blade Runner 2049, which just came out a few years ago, I think is one of the better sci-fi films I've seen in a long time, and certainly one of the best directed, best shot works of art ever. I really do think the cinematography in that movie is amongst the greatest of all time. So I was very excited for Dune. Keith, what did you know about Dune?
Zero. What a surprise. What a surprise. I mentioned my buddy Jeff. He doesn't watch the show, so he doesn't even know. But Everett hates it, which I appreciate. He's a big sci-fi guy.
How is he your buddy? This is why I hate Jeff. Jeff, he's your buddy who you talk with movies about movies all the time with, and he doesn't watch your movie show?
Well, yeah, he doesn't like me.
Oh, well, that's fair. All right, Jeff, you're back in my good graces.
Yeah. Jeff can't stand me. I just follow him around in a circle.
Mom! Mommy! Mama!
He's a sci-fi guy, and he was excited for it, or is excited for it, but he said he just showed me one clip from the old one, and he's like, you gotta see this, it's like, it looks terrible. So I said, all right, I love terrible films. Have you seen my top 10?
Yeah.
So he showed me like the visual effects from that first one. They're like in two cubes fighting. Whatever that like armor, that protective armor, I think that was the scene where they're Timothée Chalamet and Thanos were I think it's that scene or version of that scene. And the CG or whatever they used to make it look awful. So that was literally my only, I was like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like just going in, just based on that one thing, I was like, this is gonna be weird and stupid, and I don't like sci-fi, so here we go.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about Dune, so if you're like a big Dune fan, you probably won't like this. But hopefully that means that you and I, as two people who came into this completely cold, we can just discuss this film on the merits of it being its own separate piece of art, and not how it ties into the history of the novel or the original film or the attempted films over the years, which I guess are pretty famous failures.
I did want to mention, because we got, or at least I did, get into a little back and forth. This was a book. This
Frank
was
Herbert.
Yes, this was a book first, and we should mention the source material according to our fans.
We know about books. We've watched movies about books. Yeah.
Do you not think I know about books, guys? The film was this was a book first.
Look at this. Look at this wall of books I have painted back here.
I don't. I'm sorry.
So I never have seen the David Lynch film, I think from 1984 either. My dad was a big fan. My dad is a big sci-fi guy, big fan of the old Dune movie. He was always like, you got to check that out. You got to check that out. And I just never got around to it. So in the years leading up to this release, this new one, as they announced this, I was like, oh, now I really want to stay away because I love this director so much. He's assembling this remarkable like ensemble cast, which is one of my favorite things in modern movie making, especially because I feel like it happens so rarely that you get all of these really talented people together. And I feel like if they're all attached, they have to be excited too. They've seen the material, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't want to spoil anything for myself, and I just went in completely cold, watched it a couple nights ago. High expectations. I did not like it.
I'm blown away. I'm blown away. I can't believe it. Like, I think we should just give this up. Because
I know.
Fuck, man. I was really hoping. Go ahead.
I kind of really didn't like it.
Wow.
But it's not the kind of movie that, like, I enjoy not liking it. Like, I always say, like, I don't want to dislike any movie. I want every movie to be good. That's why I'm watching it. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. But a film like Mortal Kombat or a film like, these earlier ones that we've just torn to shreds, you kind of can have fun talking shit about them after the fact because they're goofy and stupid. And, but this movie, I don't enjoy the fact that I didn't like it because I respect so many of the people involved and I really wanted to like it. And I think that it's clearly making an attempt, like it's putting a lot more effort into it than most films do these days. So I'm not gonna like take shots at it for the sake of it, but I don't think it's very good. And then the other thing that boggles my mind is that it's very well reviewed, and a lot of these reviews that I've read since watching the film highlight specific attributes of this film as being excellent that I think are particularly bad. So it's not just that like a lot of reviewers like it and I don't. It's that they like it and all these things that I think are evidence of how bad this film is. Wow. So I'm saying all that to say I can be wrong. This can be one where I'm just wrong and I didn't get it. But I don't think it's a well-made film.
You ready for the twists of all twists? I liked it.
Oh. Good, you stupid bastard.
I was fully expecting you to come in here and say a lot of positive things. And I'm shocked that this is the roles. And going into it, I'm like, I'm going to hate this fucking film.
How could you like this movie?
Yeah, how could you not? I'll try and keep it abbreviated because I'm super long-winded and no one wants to hear me talk.
No.
You fucking...
Woo!
I want to start with what I don't like, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to talk about the things I like. The thing what stuck out to me is the craft achievements of this film. The craft of this film, I thought, was really, really well done. We've talked many times about me and sci-fi needing to understand the bounds and getting immersed in that universe and kind of trying to understand. And going into it, I knew nothing. So I knew it was going to be a real uphill battle for me. And even though I was lost a good chunk of the film in terms of story, the craft elements of the film, the cinematography, the directing, the score may have been my favorite part of the film. The acting I thought was great, except for one person in particular. I thought the world building from a filmmaking standpoint, it felt tangible, it felt real, it didn't feel too CGI. I was actually curious how you felt about it, but to me, it didn't feel overly like green screeny or blue screeny or just, it felt like a real place. It felt tangible in that way to me. Again, outside of the story, I'm not talking about the understanding the rules of the world, but just like this isn't a set, or at least it felt that way to me. So technically, I thought it was really, really, really well done. So well done that it made me overlook not understanding maybe 50% of what the fuck was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, a lot of like what you say and a lot of the reviews I've read subsequently really highlight that same thing. Like the world building, the cinematography, the scope. Every review says, I hope you saw this in a movie theater, and I wish I did. I did watch it at home. But I wish I had seen it in a theater because I bet it would have more of an impact, particularly when combined with the score, which I will completely agree was maybe the most memorable part. Was like very keeps you off balance.
Yeah.
Like the drone sounds and the like really impressive and really atmospheric, which is the kind of stuff you want from that.
Yeah. And unique. I don't think it felt tropey, which was what I was most blown away. There was a texture to it and a uniqueness to it that it wasn't just like, oh, we're in another big action whatever movie. I like Hans Zimmer. For those who don't know, did this. I had to look it up. I was like, who did this?
Up and coming, young talent.
Maybe you've heard. Because I didn't know who, going in, I didn't know who did it. And I was like, who? I got to check that. I got to look at this. And obviously, one of the greats did it.
Yeah. And I agree in the sense that the environments, the world building is all very tangible in like an environmental, in an atmospheric way. But to me, I was kind of disappointed with the cinematography in general, because I thought even though these worlds are so vast and real, like I thought because I thought the effects were just kind of average. I thought I don't know, some of the effects were good, and others like the worm when it was like in the ground and eating that one big machine at one point, the harvester. I didn't think that looked very good, and I thought a lot of the sets, even the ones that were more tangible or realistic, less obviously CGI, were just very bland. Like the world building was great, but those worlds that they built were very bland and not very interesting visually. And so when you combine that with the kind of boring, bland story that was hard to really get into, no disrespect, mostly very bland characters. I mean, none of those characters are exciting. It's like they all took a couple Xanax or something before, they're all on Ambien, just kind of shuffling around, oh yeah, gosh, this is stressful. I just saw the whole movie was I don't know. This is I'm gonna be meaner than I intend to, but it was designed to put me to sleep. It felt very laborious watching the film. It felt okay, ready for this to pick up. And if anybody watches this show, I feel I like a slow burn. I'm not someone that wants all this crap, but it really it was dragging.
I'm blown away. I'm blown away. I'm blown away with this take. I'm blown away with the take because I feel like you would appreciate all the craftsmanship, for lack of a better word, of the art of the film. I think is beautiful for the most part, but the thing that I think was really, really lacking is that story. And I blame myself a little bit. I'd be curious to hear from people who love Dune. What am I missing? Because there was a lot of exposition up front to try and catch me up to speed, but even with that exposition, it was just too dense. It was just too dense of a topic, where then it almost felt like a book report, where I had to learn about these cultures so thoroughly or so deeply to understand, wait, who's this guy again? What is his business again? Who's the emperor? Who's the emperor? Which one's bartering here? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? It was, there's so much to it where I kind of gave up after a while and just enjoyed the things I did like about it. The cinematography I did like, the direction I really did like. I did think the acting overall was pretty good. So there were a lot of things that I did enjoy. Just that story was really boring.
No, it is. But that's what I think was really fascinating. One of the times I thought about you was one of the first things I said to Monique as the film wrapped up, I was like, who is this movie for? That is the classic Keith Macri question.
Yeah.
And I really I don't know. I can't who's the, because Dune as a subject matter is very dense and it is very heavy, and it's like very like deep sci-fi. Like it is like a sci-fi. It's not superficial sci-fi. It's like get in there deep.
That's what she said.
So like I feel like you have to be like a Dune junkie or like a hardcore sci-fi junkie to really be excited about this movie anyways. And then the film itself is, in my opinion, kind of bland and kind of like joyless. So even if it's like good technical, which I take a little issue with, but I know I'm in the very small minority there. So even if it's good technically, it's still joyless and humorless and sexless and just very like there's not anything there for like a general audience that people want to go see. But then you take these two young stars, Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, and you put them in this movie. But I can't imagine that, 50-year-old comic book junkie Dune hounds are like, yeah, Timothée Chalamet, like Zendaya, love those kids.
The worst movie ever! And send and sip.
Like, so I just don't, it's like this amalgamation of all these things. Because, like, think about your average, I don't want to generalize, but like your average Gen Z person, your average Timothée Chalamet or Zendaya fan, they're like, ooh, they're both in this new movie. Looks like they're like love interests. Can't wait to go see it. You're 19 and you go see this movie, I feel like you're just like,
Yeah.
miserable. So, like, I don't know who this movie is for.
I mean, I think you're touching on it and maybe not even realizing it. This film has a built-in following. There are people who know this universe, this world, these books, the other films. Like, there are people who love it. So it's got a built-in audience. And then how do we trick other people to go see it? How do we trick the pop culture people to go see this? Because they don't care if they like it or not. They just want you. They want your $10. They want your $15. Whatever it costs. So I think they're just throwing in those, teen heartthrobs, for lack of a better way of saying it, to get people to see it on a broader scale.
Yeah.
And they're not film buffs either. If they get enough buzz, like, oh, this is a good movie, then they're probably going to be like, yeah, it was cool. Because what the fuck do those kids know? I'm sorry, I shouldn't. I love you guys. Please watch our show.
Yeah. Anyways, please follow us on TikTok. So you talk about the cast, and a lot of people talk about the cast. As I mentioned, I love that it's a big ensemble thing. That always gets me excited for a movie. Like when the trailer, where it's just like bang, 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 and you're like, yes. There's 10 famous people. There's 10 good actors.
Yeah.
I feel like this. I feel similarly, I think, about Zendaya, who I've discussed in Malcolm and Marie, our past episode, which is one of my favorite episodes. Go watch it. Where like I don't think she's bad, but I don't think she's that great either.
Well, she has nothing to do. She has no.
No. I don't mean in this. I mean in general.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But in this movie, I was pissed. I was like, she's not in this film.
Yeah. She's not. She's just a cameo. Spoilers. But what I was bringing up I was saying that to say, I think similarly about young Chamalet. I don't, like, he's not distractingly bad, which is great. Like, but he's not great. Like, he's not a very good actor. Like,
I'm going to disagree.
No,
He may not be a great...
Watch that movie and tell me that he's not bringing anything to those scenes. That's basic acting, man.
I don't know if this is direction or not, but as a whole, I don't think anyone's bringing anything. And maybe that's just I
disagree.
Who's doing anything? There is nothing extra about this film.
Rebecca Ferguson, the mother, is doing a lot, but not to a bad extent. I think she's the best performance in the movie.
I think she's very good. I think everybody's very good, to be honest with you.
There's a little passion and believability in her eyes. I feel like Oscar Isaac does a pretty good job. I like Oscar Isaac a lot. I think he did pretty good.
He does a good job, too.
Everybody else, Chamalet is just like, just sit there and,
give me more.
I just think, and this is stupid. This is like the worst as filmmakers ourselves ever. But like, as an actor, a little bit sometimes, I feel like I have some grasp of when I watch a performance and I go, wow. And this is most performances, by the way, of big name actors, actresses. I watch a performance, I go, wow, I can never do that because I'm not a great actor. But like, I'm watching him, and it's like, you're not doing anything that I wouldn't think to do in this role. Like, so I just like, I mean, I don't know. I just think it's easy. It's easier than most people think, general audiences, to be an average actor. And he's just average. He's just average. He's not bad. I'm not like, wow, he's really blowing this.
He's not, by no means. I would not accept you to say that he was bad. And I'm glad you're not saying it, but still, fuck you for your tone. But, because leave the kid alone. Like, I think he's good. I think he holds his own. Does he blow me away? No. Am I been like, oh my God, he's the next whomever, Leo, whoever? Like, no, I don't think that.
Yeah, but he's set up like that.
He is.
But he's like heralded as this next big thing. And I haven't seen anything where I go like, wow, this kid's really got chops. Like,
yeah, but that's just marketing. Like, I know that, but that's just marketing. That's just, they're going to decide to make him a thing.
I was thinking a lot about, well, partly it's like that character is not that exciting. Like, I guess he doesn't have that much to do, so it could be direction to some extent. But I just think, like, I don't know. If he's your main guy, and by default he's sort of supposed to be your avatar for the audience that's like learning these things and you're rooting for him and he's like the one, maybe, whatever that Force Matrix shit is. Yeah. And I know that's insulting to Dune fans because this came before Star Wars and the Matrix, so it's ripping Dune off. I know, I'm sorry. There's like zero relatability. I thought there was very little relatability to anyone in this world, and that was these worlds, and that was another hard thing for me as a viewer, to be like, oh, I don't really like anyone. I don't really see myself in anyone. I don't really empathize. I'm not really rooting for anyone. Everyone is just very like cold. Yes. And again, joyless and kind of emotionless. Like, oh yeah, had upsetting dreams again last night. But he doesn't seem that upset about it. You know, oh yeah. The only person that comes in with any energy at all is Jason Momoa. But that almost seems like out of place because he's almost like talking in very earthy slang. And yeah. I don't know, he didn't seem like he was that invested. I have a whole nother issue with the writing, but...
I love how defeated you are. It's great. I love it.
I'm sad.
It has to be. It has to be some of the directing because I think joyless is the right word, and I feel like that sounds harsher than I like mean it to be. But there isn't there. It's a very melancholy, just sad approach to existence. Like nobody, nobody seems happy about anything that's happening in their world, like at any point in time. Everything is sad. There's just impending doom, always. Yeah. And I think Joyless is a good, like you won't have fun watching this movie if you won't, if you don't like the craft stuff, which I do enjoy a little bit, and I think it was at a really high level here. So that's what made me enjoy the film.
Well, no, but that's the thing. That's an interesting thing, and I think an apt comparison, because it's the same director, obviously, to bring up Blade Runner 2049 again, is that film. Is very similar tonally. Like, there's not a lot of happiness, if any, and there's not really hardly any humor, and it's very like wow, like it makes you feel like I don't know. There's this general sense of defeat almost, where you're just like, oh my god.
Right. I don't even need humor. Like I want to be clear about this. Like it doesn't need to have it doesn't need to be a Marvel film. It doesn't need to have like jokes no. like that one character with a funny punchlines or whatever. But it just seems bleak across the board. Yeah,
you don't really have a chance to take a breath as an audience to like reset. Which even then, my point about 2049 is even then that's okay. But the thing with 2049 is I think the cinematography is fucking phenomenal. But also Ryan Gosling's performance as the lead, he's a freaking robot. But I see more behind his eyes of like sadness and reflection and introspection subtly than I do in Timothée Chalamet's. So that's where the performance comes into harsher focus, I think. Is if the film is going to be dry and heavy and dark and very melancholy, as you said, like those performances, if your protagonist is going to have to draw these emotions out of me as an audience member, where this dark, sad film, I need to really feel for that guy, even if he's dark and sad and cold. And I don't, because he's just kind of boring. And so that's my main complaint with him.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a sacrifice. You hit the nail on the head too. The overall the weakest parts of this film is the story and the character development. And I think you touched on it. Like there's not much to these characters other than the basic notes that you need to know to move the plot forward, to make things happen within the story. Knowing he's, Timothy is the one or whatever is the only thing you really know about him. Like, what else do I don't. So to your point, it gets really hard to invest emotionally in this story and in these characters because these things are really brushed over, and I think it's partly because the film is so fucking dense. Like the concept and the plot is just so you have to know so much stuff to start, to begin the story, to level set and be like, okay, now we're now who's doing what? It's and I don't know. In my head I feel like it should have been this should be at least 3 films. Not this one.
Or a series. I read a review that was this should be a Game of Thrones series. And we have all this time to build this world and introduce these characters.
Yes,
agreed. That checks out to me.
Yeah, because I knew going in that they were already working on the sequel.
Well, no, I don't think they are. I think they had to wait to see how this does.
Get the fuck it. That film, there's no way this can just end like that because nothing happened.
Well, I know.
Nothing.
Another complaint.
Because in the terms of the story, what the fuck happened? What happened?
Yeah. I kept waiting for something to happen.
Nothing.
And
nothing really
happened.
This is just the setup for, because I assumed all of, seriously, it makes a big difference to me. If this is one film, I really start to dislike it a lot more. Because what the fuck did we do? That would be my question.
This is, as of right now, it is just one film. At the end, whatever Zendaya says this is only the beginning. And I was like, then start here. Then why doesn't the movie start here? Why did I just watch 3 hours of fucking politics?
That's one of the funnier things you've said. Then start. I mean, you're right. Well, yeah. I mean, I assume that there's going to be many, many more of these. At least one. But if they don't, that's a really shitty movie because nothing happened. Because everything in that film was, I really thought was setting up future films. I thought that was the whole point, and I kind of gave it a pass.
It is, but they're just not guaranteed. It is, but it's not guaranteed. So right now we just have to judge it as a standalone.
Well, then it's much worse. It's much worse.
That's the thing. It's like Infinity. It's like the inverse of Infinity War. It's like when we watched Infinity War, I remember we walked out of the theater and I was like, I think I fucking loved that movie. But it's going to depend on what they do in Endgame. What Endgame is going to control how I feel about Infinity War because I want this to be handled correctly. And it's the backwards in this, where it's like, I'm pretty sure I hated this movie. But if that sequel is phenomenal and ties together all these loose ends, I might be like, okay.
Maybe.
But I still won't love it because I have other complaints.
Well, man. Well, let's get into it. Do you want to get into some other complaints?
Yeah. Maybe we can skim through some of these. I think the writing is mostly subpar. And the moments that I noticed the writing, which, as we've discussed before, you never want to notice the writing unless it's a great line where you're like, oh, fuck, yes. As screenwriters ourselves. You know a line that is nice, where you're like, the screenwriter took a break and jerked off after that because he was so excited about that line he just wrote. Or she, women write scripts and jerk off too.
Yeah, women masturbate too.
Yeah. Hashtag.
We can't. Oh god.
I'm editing this episode.
I know this is a nightmare. This is a nightmare.
Wait, it cut?
It cut.
What the fuck is happening, Keith? So the moments that I noticed the writing, I felt there was a lot of, I don't know, in the midst of scenes, it wasn't so bad, but there was a lot of weird, Josh Brolin rescues Timothée Chalamet from the worm situation when he's all high on the spice.
Yeah.
and they're like running back towards the ship or whatever, Josh Brolin yells like, "Run!" And there's just like a lot of lines like that, like, "Oh, we're in trouble." Like, "Oh, we gotta get out of here." You know, it's like literally, and then towards the end is like him and his mom, and he was like telling her how to do like that weird shuffle walk to confuse the fucking tremors. And he's just like, "Oh, if we do this, they can't hear us." And you know, I don't know, maybe it's nitpicky, but I noticed it like 4 or 5 times throughout the movie where it was like, no one's yelling "run" like that, and maybe that's also performance based, like Josh Brolin like, "Run!" Like you'd be like, "Fucking run!" You know, you'd be like going crazy. But it just goes more to that cold nature of everyone's performance. I didn't think Josh Brolin's performance was that good. I didn't think Jason Momoa's performance was that good. I don't know. They seem kind of bored. I don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but
I'm all over the map there. That was writing and some acting.
Yeah, I think I don't think the writing is great by any means, but it didn't like hinder anything for me. And I have to think that the direction is leading some of the performances, because everybody's performance felt muted. Maybe is the best way I could put it.
Yeah.
It to some degree, everybody felt muted. And Jason Momoa, I don't think is that great of an actor. I think he might have kind of one gear.
God doesn't give with both hands.
Yeah, he's a beautiful man. Another thing I do, as we're talking about performances, the worst performance of the whole film is Dave Bautista. I don't think should be an actor.
What?
I thought.
Oh, what is this garbage take is coming here?
Why?
You don't think he's good in Guardians of the Galaxy? He's
No.
the funniest part of those movies.
Is that the movie we're talking about right now?
No, but you just said I don't think he should be an actor.
Yeah, because he should be in that one role. And that's it, because he's fun and funny, and what he's like got that. That's fine.
I know you haven't seen 2049, but he's also in 2049.
He
and
is
does a great
brutal
job.
in this film. He is brutal in this film.
That's weird, really?
Yes, he is brutal, and he doesn't say that many lines, but every one
I know,
of them.
that's why I'm confused.
Yeah, every time he talked, it felt bad, like it felt forced.
I'm ready to just universally blame the direction for the performances, I guess, then, because if you think he was bad, and I think half the other people are bad, and most people are just they're just too cold, or they're doing a little too much. Like when Brolin in that sparring scene, like in Brolin's like, "Do you know the Harkonnens or whatever? They're brutal. They're brutal." Like he was like, it's like that's not good acting. And Josh Brolin's a great actor. So like, if great actors are giving subpar performances, you got to look elsewhere, unfortunately.
Denis Villeneuve.
Another little complaint is I thought it was boring, but what action was there was also kind of boring. And that was maybe one of the toughest pills for me to swallow, is like, okay, you're making this slow burn film that has maybe 3, maybe 4 like action-y scenes, but this is not an action film. And most representative of that is how shitty the action that's there is. A big part of that is one of my biggest complaints, which I was upset about in the first 3 seconds of this film, is that I learned it was PG-13. That's stupid. That's another reason why I would ask, like, who's this movie for? Because if you're making this movie for Dune fans, which is the only people that are going to like it, so you better nail that. It needs to be weird and warped. And again, I haven't watched that old Dune, David Lynch's, but I know the guy's face was pussy and weird, and it needs to be like kind of gross and strange. Like, lean into that. The action was so neutered.
Yeah.
These like sort of like pretty subpar choreographed fight scenes of like, is this supposed to be cool when they're like fighting with these knives? The armor effect is weird and is almost like distracting from what choreography is there. That there's like these shields that are, by the way, completely pointless, that anyone can just cut through if you do it hard enough. And it just makes everything shake while these people are fighting. So you're like, okay, I can't really see what's going on. This is distracting and lame. And then there's zero blood. Like, they're just like, oh, Jason Momoa just stabbed that guy in the neck. Maybe. Like, the action was awful. Josh Brolin doesn't know how to run. There's a whole lot going on here.
Everything should be R. I
Well,
just feel
yeah.
like I feel like most things would just be better if they were R. If you're gonna make anything that's an adult thing, it should be R. But the studios are never gonna do that because they make less money. So I agree with you. It should have been like creepier. You know, it should have been like weirder. I think that would definitely help it. As you've true to form for this whole episode, I feel like you've been just a little bit overcritical, and I probably think you're being overcritical here with like the bad action. I actually thought, what did you think? I'll ask you this: what did you think of the final fight scene?
Like, I thought that scene, that final scene where they fought, was maybe the most interesting scene of the movie.
I thought it was great because nowadays, that sounds incorrect, but nowadays,
Not nearly as incorrect as now or days sounds.
I was trying to fit, none of it sounds right, but but here we
now
are.
for sure.
Now in these days, the fights I think seem overly choreographed. I think Jackie Chan is probably the sign of excellence in this, and I think a lot of newer films try and like mimic it like over the top in a way where it's like almost like a dance, where it seems so choreographed. What I really liked about that final scene is that felt a lot more natural. That felt a lot more like if these two guys were gonna kind of fight, but they also knew how to fight, this is probably what it would look like. It didn't seem like very like like it did. Like it seemed like they were like just fighting each other. I don't want to say impressed, but I liked it. I enjoyed that final fight.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I said, I think that scene was the most interesting or engrossing of the whole film. I just think of the other action scenes that I remember are like when they get attacked and Brolin like runs out there with the team, the military, and there's like some fighting, and then I think of Jason Momoa fighting off and sacrificing himself or whatever. And both of those scenes felt very underwhelming to me.
Yeah, the film was not exciting because there was not a lot of energy, and I couldn't invest in the characters. So
yeah,
honestly, if I blame anything, I blame the story. And I don't know if it's the writers specifically. I mean, you would think
it has to be because that book is a fucking classic. So like it can't be like the book's writing fault. Like it has to be the screenwriters.
How many pages is that book?
I don't know.
And how much did they cut out to squeeze it down to 2.5 hours? Like, I don't know. It just felt like
when you think about it, it's at least double because it's going to be a sequel. And I think one of the complaints about the first version, David Lynch's version, is that they tried to cram the whole story into 2 hours, and that was tough.
Yeah.
I'm just sad. I'm just sad because I've been looking forward to Dune all year, and I feel like, oh, this is going to be like a really great movie. I've been like talking it up, and like Denis Villeneuve and this all-star cast and this great source material, and it's just going to be like what sets the award season here for the next month and 2.5 months off. Like Dune's the kickoff of the good movies finally.
It's going to be nominated for, I think, a bunch of stuff in the craft achievements, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, for sure, for the craft achievements, for sure. And also, like, every other movie I've seen this year is trash, so it'll probably be one of the 10 Best Picture nominees at this rate. There's still a
This should not be a Best
films.
Picture. This should not. I'll be upset if it's a Best Picture.
Yeah, because if you're just judging this film based on its own merits, like we discussed, like, you have to kind of act like there's not another film after this.
Right,
This
agreed.
is just one film. And in that sense, it's not very good.
It's not. It's not. Yeah. But that's the story. Like, to me, the most important part of film is the story. I've really learned that about myself through this journey with you. I rank story the number one thing in film.
I have one question.
Okay.
And the Dune fanatics will probably hate this because I'm sure it's explained very clearly in the book and perhaps even in this film, and I don't really understand. If the Emperor wants to kill the Atreides or the the Chamalet Isaac family, why go through that huge song and dance of removing the Harkonnen Bautista people to install the Atreides family just so the Harkonnens can come back and take it over from them. Like, that seems like a lot of work for no reason. Like, just logistically, just financially. Like, oh, I got to fly this whole population. I got to evacuate this whole population from this super important planet and install this new leadership group. But I'm only doing that so that original group can come back and murder this new group.
Yeah. I think the story is pretty stupid. I think
Keith, the Dune people aren't going to like that.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I think there are some positive things, and I've said them. So you should rewatch the beginning part of this. But I think this film overall, like the story of what's actually happening, is fairly pedestrian. I think generally, and you could probably poke a ton of holes in it because of the logic, and that's the thing that I always get caught up in. It's like, well, why is this happening? Why is this? How come this person can do this, and how come this person can't do this? And I don't know. And why don't they do that? If you could do this special thing where your voice can control any human at any time, can't she just solve everyone's problem by just running around? And why can't she just go to the Emperor and tell him to kill himself? Why can't we just solve every problem this way if there's a handful of people who can control people's minds? But but if you just get caught up in this, I don't know, you can't watch these films.
That's true. I mean, that same skill is part of the Jedis in Star Wars, and you're like, why don't you guys just fly everywhere and tell
why don't you just do that all the time?
Yeah.
You have the power.
Yeah. Okay. Unless you have anything else, I want to finish this episode on a very intellectual stance.
Okay. Are you putting your glasses back on? Because I can't see you.
You know I'm putting my fucking glasses back on.
Hold on.
Okay.
Now I'm ready to.
Okay. This is a little game I like to call Fuck, Marry, Kill. Your three choices are Timothée Chalamet, Oscar Isaac, and Jason Momoa.
Whoa. That's a doozy.
Yeah, it's tough.
That is tough. Am I going first, or you? I want to ask you that question.
I pose it to you. You have to do it to me, but with the female cast members.
I would.
So you're banging Momoa.
Yeah, I'm gonna marry Isaac, and I'm gonna kill Chalamet. Unfortunately, I don't want to. I begrudgingly do it.
That's probably the right choice.
Yeah.
I was thinking I'd flip the script and I'd swap Isaac and Momoa, because Momoa's fun. So you want to be married to somebody fun. Just gonna have a good time. Feel like he's gonna be into some weird stuff long term. Oscar Isaac wants to be held.
Yeah, and that's what I want out of my stable marriage. I want to be held at night.
Yeah. See. Just wrap this up.